Good morning. Welcome to this as a faith time of sharing and time of learning about our social justice teachings of the church. We come in this beautiful fall day, which is not so great with the sun, but it's a fall day, so that's what we expect for on the weather today. Uh, I dress up for you. Not really. I'm gonna have a funeral right after this, so I came all ready for the funeral. So let's as we start and prepare to go through this topic. And I was just discussing with Joy and Dulce before we starting that probably we are probably the Catholic community in Central Brazil are probably the only, if not the only, but one of the few parish or Catholic communities who took the teachings of the bishops, like the faithful citizenship documents, and go through it all together. I don't know. We was just started with something and decided to go all the way. I think it's just great. Other than just have this print it out and have it out in the parish when whomever wills to take it. But I think putting it out there for you to know and for all of us to share it and have in mind the greater teaching of the church is it's just great, and I'm very happy to be able to share with you and to be able to learn with you at the same time. No, the greatest thing about sharing information or leading in teaching is that you learn. When you read, you kind of learn, but when you try to teach, try to share with others, is when really learning happens. And so I'm glad to be blessed to have you as a group of people who follows and share with me, because you're giving me the opportunity to study more in depth our teachings. Okay, so let us begin with a small prayer, and we begin in the name of the Father, of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. We ask the Lord to be with us in this morning. We ask the Holy Spirit to guide us, to inspire us, and to give us the understanding and the willingness to be open to what is presented to us, what is given to us in the general and general social teaching of the church. And even though we are many, we are one bread, one body, for we all partake of the one bread and one cup of the Lord Jesus Christ. And we ask the Holy Spirit to inspire us and to guide us through Christ our Lord. Amen. Okay, so Dulce, let's go. Again, we have Joy and Dulce today here with us. Eloy is doing his class, diaconal class. I think he's probably also like looking at his phone if everything is going well, because he's very mindful of that this live stream works great, and but we know that Dulce can handle it perfectly, and Joy is there supporting her. It's I think I'm gonna change my team, Dulce and Joy, and then Eloy out. Anyway, so I was just making time for some people to join in. So we still have a few things to go through, and I, at the expense of the maybe falling into becoming this too cumbersome or too much. But I think once we head into the first few issues, I just think, well, this is it's a lot to go through. But I think it's a good thing that we could be able to get familiar with this, because then uh, we are familiar, and we will probably know for the rest of our lives the social teachings of the church, and we will be very well informed regarding for any election, or for not it's just not the election, it's how we decide as Catholics, as Christians, to live out our faith in our society. So the topic that we are going to head on today, we were discussing on last week, the life and dignity of the human person, and then of course in that we now continue with the poverty and economic justice, and this again is taking all the next slide, Dulce, is taken into the teachings of the popes and the teachings of the Conference of Bishops, and this is one quote from centesimus annus, which means 100 years after the first encyclical, the social justice encyclical that was published by Leo XIII, which which was Rerum Novarum. So 100 years later, Saint John Paul II wrote an encyclical, and then he talked about the church calls on us to use our spiritual and moral and intellectual energies to create a new order, a society of free work, of enterprise, and of participation. Such a society is not directed against the market but demands that the market be appropriately controlled by the forces of society and by the state, so as to guarantee that the basic needs of the whole of a society are satisfied. That's John Paul II, St. John Paul II, and, and, and he teaches that. And then economic decisions and institutions should be assessed according to whether they protect or undermine the dignity of the human person. This is something that we really need to be mindful of. Any business, anything that we are doing, we have to measure it against how well it protects the human dignity. Yesterday we were discussing in our homily that we like to compare ourselves to others. So this is probably one thing. Our business or the things that we do, we need to compare it against how well what I do or the business that I do, the work that I do, protects the human dignity of the human person. Social and economic policies should foster the creation of jobs for all who can work in decent working conditions and just wages. Barriers to equal pay and employment for women and those facing unjust discrimination must be overcome. So that's a work that we still have to do. Some countries are doing much better than others, but it's still a lot of work to be done on different parts of the world. And we as Christians, as Catholics, we are called to work on that. Catholic social teaching supports the right of workers to choose whether to organize, join a union, and bargain collectively, and to exercise their rights without reprisal. It also affirms economic freedom, initiative, and the right to private property. So we are, like the right to organize. And I know some places don't like people being organized and being in unions. And I understand also that because sometimes the unions become so strong and so politicized, and I'm just speaking from the experience in the Dominican Republic, that it was sometimes almost impossible for the state to move on. One clear example is the Union of Teachers in the Dominican Republic. It becomes so party-like, or so that they will always oppose the government, and it was hard. And then if you look at also the experience of Mexico, that's also happened. But again, that some people take unions and take it to the stream doesn't mean that unions are not good. That's the main thing. No, we sometimes tend to see the bad thing in one of these things, and then we say, well, we just disregard that. And no, there is a good to it, because they will help protect the rights of the workers and the equality of men and women, and the right wages or just wages for everyone. So Dulce, let's go to the next one. So the question is, why is there a growing gap between the rich and the poor? Well, Pope Francis has written, this imbalance is the result of ideologies which defend the absolute autonomy of the marketplace and the financial speculation. Consequently, they reject the rights of states, charged with vigilance for the common good, to exercise any form of control. That's we all just saw it, at how speculation in the market could be terrible, and how people could take advantage of that, and some ideologies just take over that really nobody wants to or seems to worry about the common good. And one of the things that probably in the place that you could see more the sin of greed is in the midst of the financial institutions, and how greedy you can become. And again, the theory about capital. I'm a capitalist myself, so let's put it that way. I'm a farmer boy, and I grew, and I know that working hard that's good. So, but the theory is that you will fill the cap and then trickle down economies, and you know that the whatever drops gets to other people. Well, you always make the cap bigger. That's when greed comes in. You know, you become greedy, and then your cup is filling up. Well, I make it a bigger cup, and so there is never the trickle down, which is a great idea, but in reality it doesn't work. So we have to be mindful of that, as that sometimes those ideologies, or the ideas that were good or have a good intention, have our human greed has taken into place, and then is not benefiting everybody, no? So we have to be mindful of that, of the common good. Debt and accumulation, the accumulation of interest also make it difficult for countries to realize the potential of their own economies and keep citizens from enjoying the real purchasing power. You know, it's a well, we have countries like really in big debt, and I've been reading sometimes like if countries were to be pardoned their debts, probably they will have a better chance to work and invest in their own things. Because if you look, some of the countries, the budget just for the country, the budget just to pay debt is so huge that so it's very little left to invest in education, in infrastructure, and other things. And that's one of the big problems. And you even make more debt to pay debt, and it's just crazy. I mean, when you look at different countries in developing countries, and the situation in which they find themselves, it's really hard. And it's, well, there will be never be a possibility to get out of poverty, because you're just working for paying interest and paying debt, and the infrastructure, the education, the people, the human capital of the country is not being developed, which is what we need to have a developed nation. No? To all this, we can add widespread corruption and self-serving tax evasion, which have taken a worldwide dimensions. I mean, I don't want to quote anybody, but we all well aware of how the laws and the tax and everything, they give you like a good ways of work around it. And I know, I mean, nobody wants to pay taxes. This is like simple, no? It's like you want to pay the minimal taxes, but there's some countries that really like there's no tax at all. I mean, like people really avoid paying it. Then because of the corruption, and we all have the right to know that our money that we pay in taxes is well spent and well used for the state. There's other places that the corruption that is in the governments and all that, so people are really not willing to pay because they know that the money is not going to make any difference in the state. But Pope Francis is calling us and inviting us that we have to be really mindful of it, you know, because corruption is a very big disease, and we find it in many different places and in many different levels, you know, and that it's sometimes well accepted and it's almost understood. And again, I'm drawing from my experience in the Dominican Republic, but sometimes a politician, I mean, they knew that they will invest a lot of money in the campaign, and then that money will come back later on when they are in government. And corruption takes many different shapes. I mean, like not necessarily is like just getting the money from this and put it in your pocket. It's how you do favors to each other. I mean, it's just amazing how corrupt we could go, and how corruption is part of almost like a system that is like nobody worries about it, like nobody complains about it. It's part of what it is, and then we have to be very careful about that. So the next one. So Dulce, what can we do about poverty? Yes, that's the question, and I think that will be the question for ages. But Jesus tells us that the poor will be always with us. That could be a great excuse for us to say, well, I don't have much to do. But well, it doesn't absolve us from our responsibility to help liberate those living in poverty. We would know that we will die and there will be continue to be poverty, but that fact should not prevent us from trying to work to help liberate people. I wanna can congratulate you for the support that you showed to us on last Lent campaign when we were fundraising for our bathrooms in Bolivia. So that's like a sign of how can you liberate somebody from poverty. I mean, like, of course, do we want to change the system in Bolivia that the whole country will live in better conditions? Of course. Can we do it? Maybe not. But we could change the life of a family. We could change the life of a person. And that means a lot to that person, to that family, and to humanity. Because that's the small things that we do. If a lot of us do small things, then it becomes a big thing. So welfare policies should reduce poverty and dependency. Pope Francis is really big on reducing dependency. And I work in the Dominican Republic with Bishop Jose, who would fight against that. His main thing is, and he was the social justice guy. He's like, well, all social projects, like the church in his diocese, we were strong on that, but always having in mind and being careful of dependency. We want to liberate, as he says, people from poverty, not make them dependent on programs and on things. And then, of course, that the core of it is education. The core of it is giving the people opportunities to work and to have jobs and help them help themselves. So strengthen family life and help families leave poverty through work, training, and assistance with childcare, healthcare, housing, and transportation. Given the link between family stability and economic success, welfare policies should address both the economic and cultural factors that contribute to family breakdown. And that's true. I mean, it's my father always, and now I don't know how to translate that saying, but I grew up that my father, as a family, like for the family values, when we talk about working, that the bees make a hive, no? But it's a beef hive, but it's the whole beef, the whole group of bees. It's not just one. It's the whole group working together that are able to make a hive. Otherwise, one just bee just gets lost and doesn't do anything. And he will always teach that in our family, that we have to all work together to make the economic success. So if you have a family that is stable, a family that have a dad and a mom and the children that have some core values and live strongly their faith, chances are that the economic success is going to happen. But if you have just a poor single mother, or well, a single parent, I mean, not just mother, a single parent, or a family that is really broken because there is no any values and there is substance abuse, physical abuse. I mean, that is just not a good recipe for economical success. So you also should provide a safety net for those who cannot work, improving the earned income tax credit and child tax credits available as refunds to families in greatest need will help lift low-income families out of poverty. This is the teaching of the bishops here in the United States. So let's go to the next one. So this is the big thing on Pope Francis. What are the effects of consumerism? As Pope Francis has written, human beings are themselves considered consumer goods to be used and then discarded. We have created a throwaway culture which is now spreading. To sustain a lifestyle which excludes others, or to sustain enthusiasm for that selfish ideal, a globalization of indifference has developed. That's something that is true. I mean, like, how can goods, this phone, travel and going through borders very easily, and humans who want to go and develop themselves and look for a better life have very difficult situations, very difficult circumstances in the life that they struggle. So it's the globalization of goods, and which is good. I mean, like, I'm not going against it, but then at the same time, we this globalization also has created what Pope Francis says, a globalization of indifference. We just, oh, fine. I mean, like, you could have your best and wonderful shoes or clothing being manufactured in a very poor conditions in, I don't know, Cambodia or whatever country you would like to say it, and we those goods come this way, and then the poor people out there, like, are not being treated well. So it's kind of, and we are indifferent to that. That's one of the concerns of Pope Francis, the globalization of indifference. And I think that's really is something that is taking place in our society, in our lives, and it's strong. When we as faithful and as church, we sometimes say that, no, that the culture, like, complain about things and all that. I At the core of it is that we have become indifferent. And no, I mean, you guys are great. You are always connected and learning, and we all, like, but as a society, people are indifferent. I mean, like, if I say something about these teachings, I mean, this matters to you because you are people of my parish and people who know me and people who work, but to the rest, they don't care. And even if we make, like, high profile bishops or priests or people who go out, I mean, some people just don't care, just indifferent. And that's, I think, is very bad, because not because they have to listen to me or anybody, but it's just when you create a culture of indifference, that anybody says something and you don't care, well, it trickles down to being indifferent to the suffering of your neighbor, trickles down to being indifferent to anything that happens around you. And that's what society is becoming and is going towards, and not only here, and all over the world. And that's sad, because that's kind of selfish, and that's what we need as people of faith, try to fight against in good ways of making people think about and share with people that we have to care. I mean, we care for the human family, and I should care for the people who struggle. I should care, at least be mindful of that. Not just that, oh, another headline, another news, another thing, and people just don't care. And I think that my generation of people, like, also called millennials, are kind of ones who really don't care. I mean, we grown up that everything comes in and out, and we have phones, and we see the stuff, like, we go very fast like that, and see, it's the challenge for us as faithful is to engage those people, engage that culture, and make people understand, or not make, but, like, inspire them to understand that caring for others is a good thing, and being indifferent is selfish, and it's actually very sad. It's not even selfish, it's sad. When you don't care for other people, it's really sad. Almost without being aware of it, we end up being incapable of feeling compassion at the outcry of the poor, weeping for the people's pain, and feeling a need to help them, as though all this were someone else's responsibility and not our own. That's what indifference does. The culture of prosperity deadens us. We are thrilled if the market offers us something new to purchase. In the meantime, all those lives stand by for lack of opportunities seem a mere spectacle. They fail to move us. And you just not to see, what is the day after Thanksgiving? Black Friday. So the expectation that people have to go and buy, it's just amazing. And I wonder if those people who make these lines at 3 in the morning to get into a shop to buy something, the day before, when they are eating all this wonderful meal, they had thought about a poor person that need a meal. I wonder that. We are so passionate about buying and consuming and like so passionate about the new gadget, the new thing that is coming out. But are we so passionate also about the person that is struggling and suffering around us? We have to ask ourselves that. Pope Francis is very big in that. So the next slide, we'll say. Pope Francis, Evangelical Guardian, he says the dignity of each human person and the pursuit of the common good are concerns which ought to shape all economic policies. So that's, I mean, again, it's our work, and of course, we all can do so much little, but again, if we are aware and if we make decisions by being aware of the responsibility that we have for the common good and for the dignity of the human being, then probably different things should and would happen. So the next one. Okay, if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I could just keep going. So now the other topics that we were gonna tackle, and it's in our whole sessions of faithful citizenship, is religious liberty and immigration and solidarity. So this is religious freedom is one of those things that is very, and it's one of the things that actually I became very aware of when I came to this country. That was not part of the discussion for me growing up in Colombia. I think, and it's because even though Colombia, I mean, we don't have theocracies like in the Middle East with Islam, but that difference between church and state is not as clear as it was as is it here. I mean, here we have very clear distinction between church and state. In Colombia, we have holidays that if it's a religious holiday, you don't work. I mean, the whole country stops because and there is separation of church and state, but it's like really people very Christian country that so any feast of about Corpus Christi, Christ the King, all those things we celebrated, and then everybody has a day off thanks to the faith. But I learned about religious freedom. I learned about church and state separation when I came to this country, or at least I was more aware of that. And here is clear, no? So why is religious liberty vital, or religious freedom? As the Catechism of the Catholic Church teaches, the right to religious freedom and freedom of conscience is based on the very nature of the human person, whose dignity enables him herself freely to ascend to the divine truth. So it's my, because of the conscience, no? This freedom must never be coerced, for to do so is to injure human beings in their relationship with God. So that's like great teaching there. As Pope Francis has explained, our various religious traditions serve society primarily by the message they proclaim. They call individuals and communities to worship God, the source of all life, liberty, and happiness. Our rich religious traditions seek to offer meaning and direction. They have an enduring power to open new horizons, to stimulate thought, to expand the mind and the heart. So, any religious tradition, for the most part, help the society. And people having the freedom to do that, it will benefit the society. And it is sad that some countries around the world do not allow the religious freedom. I mean, in this country, it's just great because of that. I mean, like we are proud of having the religious freedom and allowing people to worship God and allowing people to have their own religious beliefs. And actually, it's good that you have the opportunity according to your beliefs to dissent, and nobody's gonna judge you for that, because our constitutions, our culture provides for that, and that's good, no? And we have to protect that. They call to conversion, like the religious traditions call to conversion, reconciliation, concern for the future of society, self sacrifice in the service of the common good, and compassion for those in need. At the heart of the spiritual mission is the proclamation of the truth and the dignity of the human person and all human rights. You know. Let's continue with the second one. The next one, please. What about the rights of non-believers? Uh, as Pope Francis has written, as believers, we also feel close to those who do not consider themselves part of any religious tradition, yet sincerely seek the truth, goodness, and beauty which we believe have their highest expression and source in God. So, religious freedom is also to help me to understand that there may be someone out there that doesn't believe the things that I believe, that doesn't even believe in anything, but in his or her good heart, there is a true belief to seek the truth and to look for goodness in the world. And there's many people like that, and that's why it's sometimes as church we have been strong in saying like outside the church there is no salvation and all that, and I think like thank goodness to the Second Vatican Council, the teachings that has been changed and the language has been transformed. We still believe that we have the means for salvation because we were founded by Christ and we have the sacraments that will help us. And I honestly, this is my personal opinion, I think we have it easy because we have a lot of tools. And a poor person who does not belong, a person who does not belong to the church, have it hard because he needs to be more self-disciplined. You believe, you be a believer and belonging to a community and being a Christian faithful, and you have all the sacraments, you have a community, you have a place where you go, you have teachers that will tell you where to go. That's easy. Someone who doesn't have that, it's committed by self-discipline to look for this goodness and this good. And I honestly find it hard, but that's my personal opinion. This is not church teaching. We have the means of salvation. We consider them as precious allies in the commitment to defending human dignity, in building peaceful coexistence between peoples, and in protecting creation. So you don't have to be part of our church to defend and protect creation. No? There's people who don't believe, but they're good uh, defenders of God's creation. Dulce, the next one. What is the state of religious liberty in the US? In the United States, and this is the teaching of the bishops or the Conference of Bishops of the US. In the United States, religious freedom generally enjoys strong protection in our law and culture. That's what I was saying before. But those protections are now in doubt. For example, the longest standing tax exemption of the church has been explicitly called into question at the highest levels of government, precisely because of her teaching on marriage. So Catholics have a particular duty to make sure that protections like this do not weaken, but instead grow in strength. This is not only to secure the just freedom of the church and the faithful here, but also to offer hope and encouraging witnesses to those who suffer direct and even violent religious persecution in countries where the protection is far weaker. Yeah, we here have it is honestly, and in I think for the most part in Latin America and Europe, uh, people have the freedom for religion. But when we discuss about the East, things get more complicated out there, and something that we take for granted that I could worship in a church, I could worship publicly my faith. In other places, people cannot do that, and if they do, they are putting their lives at risk. So it's something that we need to be mindful, at least that this needs to be taken into account. And again, also our country as policies, and also we should be able to also to protect and not be so lenient with those countries who do not protect religious freedom and let people worship in their faith. Okay, the next one. If you have any questions, please let me know. Immigration and solidarity. So, uh, why is the church committed to immigration reform? Well, as the Wisconsin bishops wrote in their 2012 pastoral letter, "Traveling Together in Hope." That's the name of the letter. If you want to know more about it, you could read that one. As Catholics, we uphold the sanctity and dignity of every human life from conception to natural death. We affirm that every human being is created in God's image through his boundless love. Just as we work to protect the innocent unborn 40 million of whom have already lost their lives, so we cannot turn our backs on the 12 million immigrants in our midst who long to live freely and fully. This is the teachings of the bishops of Wisconsin, so the five dioceses that are here in Wisconsin, um, in the pastoral letter, traveling together in hope. So immigrants, there's 12 million people of them out there, and this is back 2012. So if we look at 2020 numbers, probably the number will be greater. And again, since there is a lot of immigrants who are not accounted for, you probably are looking at higher numbers, no? And move to the next one. What about people who are in our country illegally? And that's probably what many people would ask. It's okay, yes, people have the right to immigrate and the right to be, but what about those who are here illegally? Wisconsin bishops acknowledge that the rule of law is essential to maintaining a stable society. However, they explain that Americans have to acknowledge that some of our foreign and domestic policies and practices have contributed to illegal entry of immigrants. Our nation's incessant demand for inexpensive goods and services is one of the driving forces behind the export of American jobs and the hiring of immigrant workers. Our nation is a magnet for immigrants because there is work here and because of the international disparity in wages. Our aging population needs younger workers. That is so true. I mean, the problem of immigration, and sometimes it's at the core of it, is economical. If there is jobs, there will be immigrants coming. If there is work, they will come. Honestly, there is no one immigrant. Well, I'm being too general, no, but there's no one that just will decide to come here because of the fun of it. I'm telling you, as an immigrant, yeah, there's not coming just for the fun of it. Especially now that the weather gets tough, my hill farm in the mountains of Colombia, which the weather all year is between 65 and 80, I think that's heaven, you know. But we are here because we are here, because God called us here. So there's something that regarding that, you know, it's economical, and it's because people have an opportunity of jobs here. And again, because we, as we discussed last Saturday, because we also want to pay cheaper for the things that we're gonna buy, you know. And then, of course, if we want immigrants working in farms that get low wages and and they do the tough work that not many people are willing to do, well, that will provide us food and provide us food at lower prices that if you were to hire people with higher wages and higher benefits, then we'll have to pay probably the double for our food, and you don't want to pay the double for the food. You know, that's a reality. It's an economical reality that we need to be mindful of that, and the bishops are really tackling that issue there, and so we need to be just mindful of that when we discuss about immigrants. No, that I don't think a discourse that is saying that they come here to steal from us is the right one to go. You know, people come here because they have jobs, they have the opportunity to work, they have the opportunity to make a living, and that's an example. Most of the immigrants, it's Mexicans who worship in St. Patrick's, who are our brothers and sisters in faith, They come from Mexico, from one place in Mexico, in the area of Jalisco. It's called Santa Fe. And what happens? Well, maybe back, I don't know when, somebody from Santa Fe, Jalisco, came up here and have a job. And so this guy or this woman told somebody back home that there were jobs here. And so everybody started coming this. And you see that's because that's the reality. People will come if there are jobs. When there are no jobs, there are not people in there. I like in the 2008, the big economical crisis. I was reading about Spain. Spain is a lot of immigrants from Latin America and from Ecuador, from Colombia, from different places. So once the economical crisis hit and there was no jobs for people, many people were back home. Say like, what am I going to stay here? Living out of what? I go back home. You know, it's economical, and we have to be mindful of that. Dulce? What immigration reform does the church support? Well, the church, a comprehensive reform, should include a broad and fair legalization program with a path to citizenship, a work program with workers' protections and just wages, family reunification policies, access to legal protections, which include due process procedures, refuge for those fleeing persecution and violence, and policies to address the root causes of migration. The right and responsibility of nations to control their borders and to maintain the rule of law should be recognized but pursued in a just and a humane manner. So that's what the church promotes, no? An immigration reform that helps all those. Again, I'm an immigrant myself. Last year, on October 1st, I applied to my uh, green card residence, process, which should be 4 to 6 months. It's already 1 year, and I haven't had an answer. I'm a privileged guy because, of course, I'm a priest, sponsored by the Diocese of Milwaukee, loved by you, being having the means to pay for a good lawyer, and I still have that problem. Imagine an immigrant family who is trying to survive with the little money that they make and now pay legal fees. And the legal fees for this are high. I tell you, and believe me. So just how is that? I'm like all the papers, pay taxes, everything, and I still have 1 year waiting. And I probably will have to go out of the country and get my visa but to continue. So it's just we need something that speed up the process and take into account the different things that are happening there, because there are many people like me who came in the right way. I mean, there's people who came illegally and there's things, but can you imagine just a person who does not have the means to pay a lawyer, does not have all the means that I have and all the support that I have? I mean, it's the Archdiocese of Milwaukee supporting me, the Catholic Church. I mean, it's not somebody that just decides that I'm gonna get this, and I'm still waiting. Just for you to know the reality, So the next one. What more can be done to help those fleeing poverty, violence, and persecution? As Pope Francis explains, the Church stands at the side of all who work to defend each person's right to live with dignity, first and foremost by exercising the right not to immigrate and to contribute to development of one's country of origin. This process should include, from the outset, the need to assist the countries which migrants and refugees live. This will demonstrate that solidarity, cooperation, international independence, and the equitable distribution of the earth's goods are essential for more decisive efforts, especially in areas where migration movements begin, to eliminate those imbalances which lead people, individually or collectively, to abandon their own natural and cultural environment. This is one thing. I mean, it's this when you talk to people who migrate, they at the bottom, at the core of their migration experience is that they don't want to leave their country. it's out of necessity. It's out of necessity that they want to live, that they have to live, not to want. They don't want, and it's not because it's. I mean, like people just. But imagine if you have a family. Imagine if you all this, and then you need to provide for them, and there is no opportunities there. There is violence. There is corruption. There is a lot of things. So that there is not a good basis for society or a safe net for these people to make a good living out there. They live. And I, again, as an immigrant also who lived in the Dominican Republic and I experienced how many people left, immigration, it's it's a very tough thing because of course people go to other countries and make money, but not always benefit in a very good way the reality of the country where they left or the situation of the families back home. You then because that makes sometimes create dependence. Sometimes mom is in another country sending money for me, so son or daughter is in this country blackmailing mom because she abandoned me, or my blackmailing dad because he or she abandoned me, and then just sending money and having the nice and good gadgets, but not always that money goes for education and improving the livelihood of these people. It's a very tough situation. I mean, like I don't know if I have the solution. I probably will be the, the smartest guy on earth. But it's really tough. People live because they have to. They don't want to live. The price that they pay by leaving their families and their origins, it's very high. It's difficult. Okay, I see that I've been calling on my time because I have the funeral. So the last one it says, from ending the slave trade to securing civil rights, from erecting hospitals and schools to helping the unborn, the homeless, and the hungry, people of faith have led the way. That's the experience in this country and experience in many countries. The church, we have always led the way on helping and supporting everybody. Like if you look at the hospitals in some here, but also in some countries in South America, in Africa, in other areas of the world, like the church healthcare system, the church health education system, and all those things that we have been always leading the way to help people to improve their human dignity. So now it's time for me if you have any questions, and if not, you are wonderful and awesome and have a wonderful day. Um, I want to the people who are here from St. Edward's. We are going to have the funeral of um, Bill McCormick and Janet McCormick. So it's a very sad story. But so Bill passed away last week. I went to his home just right after he has passed away. This is one of the moving things about being a priest that I think I preached about that on last Sunday. And I did that. So on Tuesday this week, I met with Kevin and Janet. Kevin is the son, and Janet was the wife, to prepare the funeral for today for Bill. And while we were meeting, she asked me that she wanted to see the remodelation and the things that we have done in the church in St. Edward's. And Kevin said, "Mom, you're gonna be here on Saturday. Why now? Don't bother father." I said, "No, no, it's okay. Let's go." She said, "No, I want to see it before Saturday." I said, "Let's go." We went around. She saw. Of course, she's been a parishioner there for forever, so she knew how the church looked like before and how and she was so happy and so joyful about the things that the church has happened. And then she told me, "Father, thank you very much. It was great for me to see the church before Saturday." And the next thing I know is next morning she died. She passed away. So we are having today the funeral together. Thank you for connecting, and I'm happy to be here with you. But I'm gonna leave you and I go to do the funeral. Please say a prayer for Bill and Janet that they'll be resting in peace in heaven, but also for their family and their children. Okay, and have a wonderful day.
The Catholic community in Central Racine consists of St. Richard's, St. Patrick's, and St. Edward's parishes. We are one faith, one family, in the heart of Racine.
We are a community of faith who gather to pray and worship together. Every day we strive to grow deeper in our relationship with God and others. We are an inclusive community in which people of various ethnicities come together as one family.
During the pandemic, we have developed our online ministry to reach out to all our family members and community. We currently have the ability to live stream masses and Bible studies 6 days a week. We are on 2 different platforms, YouTube and Facebook, as Catholic Community in Central Racine. We are only able to accomplish this due in part to your commitment to us with prayers and constant support. The success of this ministry depends on your following and sharing with family and friends. We have made some investments to make this possible. If you would like to support this ministry financially, we will be very appreciative of any gift you can offer us.
Thank you and God bless.